अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरौ श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणां रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणां ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। Okay, so let's get going with Bhagavad-gita 7.3 today. And what do you remember from the first two verses? I'm expecting everybody to kind of rake your memories and try to remember what we said. So if you remember all of it, don't tell me all of it. Give a chance to others also to share. So maybe everybody can try to give me 1 point from the two verses that we have been studying. And you can unmute yourself and let me know what your thoughts are.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
It's okay, Archana. Please go ahead.
No, Mataji, you go ahead, Mataji. No problem.
No, please. Please carry on.
Mataji, you can go ahead. No, Mataji, I can wait. It's okay. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Mataji, and the first, when you started the 7th chapter, you said that Krishna says that how can I know Krishna? So Krishna says that you listen to me. This was the most important thing, that you listen to me, and then only you will come to know about me.
All right, very good. Anybody else wants to share?
Mataji, in the last week, we had talked about Krishna was talking about phenomenal and numinous knowledge to Krishna, to Arjuna. Yeah.
Very good.
So, yeah. Somebody else wants to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Archana Mataji. So that was my point also, because I had read like Bhagavad-gita from long ago, but I kind of knew it, but I was not that clear. But after the class, I was very clear on what does phenomenal and numinous means.
Good. And then what do we see about phenomenal and numinous, in particular, the two together? What did Krishna say about that? The two
So,
put together.
so both like the material and so Vigyan and Gyan, so which is a knowledge of material and spiritual.
Yeah. And when you put two of them together, then what did he say? Krishna said something about that. That if you know the phenomenal and the numinous, then there is nothing else left to be known, right?
Yeah.
Right? Nothing else. So it's complete knowledge. So he was talking about complete knowledge in its entirety and its completeness. Okay, good. So we will get going with the third verse. And okay, so we're going to take the third verse from Bhagavad Gita, bringing it up here, 7th chapter. Okay, here we go. So 7th chapter itself is called what? What's the name of the 7th chapter?
Knowledge of the absolute.
Knowledge of the absolute. Wonderful. Okay. So then what I'll do is that I'm going to create a reading list, right? And which will be in the order in which you appeared on my screen. So I had Sadhana Mataji, and then I know that there was Varshana, and then there was Archana. Oh, there was Preeti Radhika also. Preeti Radhika. Then we had Archana Mataji join us, and nothing after that we had Sonal Mataji. And then am I missing anybody who doesn't show up on my screen, or is that all? Priyanka. Okay, Priyanka came somewhere in between.
Mataji, I
So
won't be able
Priyanka
to
is
read
there.
though. Mataji,
Okay.
I won't
Okay,
be
so
able to read.
okay, got it. So Priyanka Mataji will not read. She will pay the fine. I'm not reading. Okay, just kidding. All right. So let's get started. Whose order is it to read? Whose chance is it to read? And let's see.
Yeah.
Sadhana Mataji. Do we have Sadhana Mataji here though?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's here. Okay, yeah. My screen is just crazy. You know, that panel just moves people on it.
Okay. So
So you want to attempt? Do you want to attempt the Sanskrit here? This
Oh
one?
no, I can, but can you share, please?
That's a good point. That's a good
Yeah.
point. I should
Otherwise,
check.
I'll try out from my memory. Shall I? Maybe
You
not.
might surprise yourself. You might
I don't
surprise
think
yourself.
so.
Okay.
Bhagavad-gita 7.3. Manushanyam sahasrashu kaschid yatati siddhayai yata tam api siddhanam kaschin mam vati tatvataha.
Very nice. Okay. Then Varshana Mataji, give us the synonyms, please.
Hare Krishna. Manushyanam of men, sahasreshu, out of many thousands, kaschit, someone, yatati, endeavors, siddhaye, for perfection, yatatam, of those so endeavoring, api, indeed, siddhanam, of those who have achieved perfection, kaschit, someone, mam, me, veti, does know, tatvataha, in fact. Hare Krishna.
Preeti?
Sure. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth.
Archana?
Purport, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. There are various grades of men, and out of many thousands, one may be sufficiently interested in transcendental realization to try to know what is the self, what is the body, and what is the absolute truth. Generally, mankind is simply engaged in the animal propensities, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. And hardly anyone is interested in transcendental knowledge. The first 6 chapters of the Gita are meant for those who are interested in transcendental knowledge, in understanding the self, the super self, and the process of realization by jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and discrimination of the self from matter. However, Krishna can be known only by persons who are in Krishna consciousness. Other transcendentalists may achieve impersonal Brahman realization, for this is easier than understanding Krishna. Krishna is the supreme person, but at the same time, he is beyond the knowledge of Brahman and Paramatma. The yogis and jnanis are confused in their attempts to understand Krishna. Although the greatest of the impersonalists, Sripad Shankaracharya, had admitted in his Gita commentary that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, his followers do not accept Krishna as such, for it is very difficult to know Krishna even though one has transcendental realization of impersonal Brahman. Hare Krishna.
Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the primeval Lord Govinda, Ishvara Parama, Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. It is very difficult for the non-devotees to know him. Although non-devotees declare that the path of bhakti or devotional service is very easy, they cannot practice it. If the path of bhakti is so easy as the non-devotee class of men proclaim, then why do they take up the difficult path? Actually, the path of bhakti is not easy. The so-called path of bhakti practiced by unauthorized persons without knowledge of bhakti may be easy, but when it is practiced factually according to the rules and regulations, the speculative scholars and philosophers fall away from the path. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-101, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidhim Vina Aikantitik Harer Bhaktir Utpaya Yaiva Kalpate.
So it will be devotional service of the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures like the Upanishads, Puranas, and Narad Pancharatra is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. Sadhana, Mataji, you can.
It is not possible. It is not possible for the Brahman realized impersonalist or the Paramatma realized yogi to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the son of Mother Yashoda or the charioteer of Arjuna. Even the great demigods are sometimes confused about Krishna. Mayanti yat suryaha. Mam tu veda na kashchana. No one knows me as I am, the Lord says, and if one does know him, then sa Mahatma sur durlabaha. Such great soul is very rare. Therefore, unless one practices devotional service to the Lord, one cannot know Krishna as he is, tattvataha, even though one is a great scholar or philosopher. Only the pure devotees can know something of the inconceivable, transcendental qualities of Krishna, his being the cause of all causes, his omnipotence and opulence, and his wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Because Krishna is benevolently inclined to his devotees. He is the last word in Brahman realization, and devotees alone can realize him as he is. Therefore, it is said, shall I carry on? Next person.
Yeah, go ahead. Next person. Who's next person? Varshana, you want to read?
Yes. Okay. Atha Shri Krishna Namati na bhaved grayam indriye sevon mukhehi jivado sevyam eva safurtya ada. No one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. Bhakti Rasamat Sindhu 1 to 234. Hare Krishna.
Right. So how will you remember the number of the verse? Athashi Krishna Nam Adi Na Bhaved Garam Indriye. How will you remember the verse number?
1,
What is
2,
it?
2, 3,
2, 3, 4.
4.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah,
yeah.
1.2.234. Right? Easy way to remember. It's from Bhakti Rasamat Sindhu, which is nectar of whose summary is the book Nectar of Devotion. Okay, good. So we come to our
Rupa Goswami.
yes, written by Rupa Goswami. So we come to the fun part of the day where we will just go into the details of this verse. So what did you hear? Shrunu, what did you Shrunu?
I really liked in the purport, it is mentioned that Krishna is benevolently inclined towards his devotees. And then also second thing I liked is that bhakti is not easy. An impersonalist, even if they think it's easy, they cannot take to it because actually it is not very easy.
Yes, yes. Anybody else wants to add?
Yeah, it's like he continues to say what is difficult to know Krishna, and that there's very few rare souls that actually do know him.
Right. And what are some of the figures he gives there? Facts and figures he gives, right?
Among many thousands who want to endeavor for perfection, only one will hardly achieve it.
Right. So he's saying many thousands, right? Even if it is 1,000, right? You see, if 1 out of 1,000 means that 999 are not doing it, right? So, but here he's actually saying out of many thousands, it's not just 999. It could be 9,999 or even more than that. So you see, that's devotional service. Is talking about the rarity of devotional service. It is rare. It's not an easy thing. It's not easy to get. The devotional service itself is not. It's rare, right? It's very, very rare. Okay. So in the first verse, Krishna had talked about that, you know me. And then he had said that in the next verse, he said, oh, there's numinous and there's phenomenal. And now in this verse, he's talking about that, trying to know me, it's very difficult to know Krishna. And those who are trying to rake their brains and get the knowledge, after thousands of such people, only one, will get to know me properly, like that. And then of course, in the next verse which is coming, he'll talk everything about the material world in one verse, right? Bhumi apo anilo vayu, like that. So bahunam, then he will also say about this rarity of devotional service. He's going to talk about that more as we go along. So he's talking about it now. He's giving numbers that as to how many, right? How many? So he says, out of many thousands, only one. And then the question says that, and when? When do they do that, right? When will they do that? So here, I'm going to share a verse from the same chapter where Krishna is talking about when that happens. When is that going to happen? So please confirm that you can see the screen, and next in line can read the verse. Who is next?
It's me, Hare Krishna. Bahunam janmanam ante janvanan mam prapadyate jnanvan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvam iti sa mahatma sudurlabha.
Very nice. Okay, let's go and see what does it say. After Preeti.
Yeah, Mataji, it's me. Synonyms: bahunam, many; janmanam, repeated births and deaths; ante, after; jnanavan, one who is in full knowledge; mam, onto me; prapadyate, surrenders; vasudeva, the personality of Godhead Krishna, Sarvam, everything, Iti, does, Saha, that, Mahatma, great soul, Sudurlabaha, very rare to see. Hare Krishna.
Sonal Mataji.
After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare.
Okay. Let's continue. Next in line, Sadhana Mataji, we can cycle through and we can read.
The living entity, while executing devotional service or transcendental rituals after many, many births, may actually become situated in transcendental pure knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of spiritual realization. In the beginning of spiritual realization, while one is trying to give up one's attachment to materialism, there is some leaning towards impersonalism. But when one is further advanced, he can understand that there are activities in the spiritual life and that these activities constitute devotional service. Realizing this, he becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrenders to him. At such a time, one can understand that Lord Sri Krishna's mercy is everything, that he is the cause of all causes, and that this material manifestation is not independent from him. He realizes the material world to be a perverted reflection of spiritual variegatedness, and realizes that in everything there is a relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Thus he thinks of everything in relation to Vasudeva, or Sri Krishna. Such a universal vision of Vasudeva precipitates one's full surrender to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna as the highest goal. Such surrendered great souls are very rare.
Hare Krishna. This verse is very nicely explained in the 3rd chapter. Let's just scroll it up. This verse is very nicely explained in the 3rd chapter, verse 14 and 15 of the Shvetashvatar Upanishad.
Shwet Ashwa. So it's a white horse. Yeah.
Okay.
Shwet Ashwa. Yeah, it's a white horse. Yeah.
Shveta Ashvatar Upanishad. Sahasra Shirsha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasrapad Sabrahmin Vishvato Vratva Tyatishthad Dashangulam Purusha evadam sarvam yadbhutam yachacha bhavyam utamrat atvayasye eshanu yad asenan atir ohite. Hare Krishna.
Good. Good.
Lord Vishnu has thousands of heads, thousands of eyes, and thousands of feet. Entirely encompassing the whole universe, he still extends beyond it by 10 fingers' breadth. He is in fact the entire universe. He is all that was and all that will be. He is the Lord of immorality and of all that is nourished by food. In the
Lord of
Chandog...
immortality. Lord of immortality.
Oh, immortality, sorry. He is the Lord of... I was like, that didn't sound right. He's the Lord of immortality and of all that is nourished by food. In the Chandogya Upanishad 5.1.15, it is said, Nave vacho na chakshumshi na shtrostani na mahamitsya achkaste prana iti eva chakshate prano hi evetani sarvani bhavanti. In the body of a living being, neither the power to speak, nor the power to see, nor the power to hear, nor the power to think is the prime factor. It is life which is the center of all activities. Similarly, Lord Vasudeva, or the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is the prime entity in everything. In this body, there are powers of speaking, of seeing, of hearing, of mental activities, etc. but these are not important if not related to the Supreme Lord. And because Vasudev is all pervading and everything is Vasudev, the devotee surrenders in full knowledge. Bhagavad Gita 7.17 and 11.40.
Haribol. Right? So he was talking about the rarity, about, in numbers, and now he's also talking about the time, right? That not that it will just happen like that. Bahunam janmanam ante. After many, many such births, right? Okay. And then let's see what does he say in this verse 726. Who is after Preeti?
Mataji me.
Okay.
Vedaham samatitani varta manani cha Arjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu veda na kaschana.
Yeah. Can you scroll it up? Veda.
Can you see?
Vartamanani, present, cha, and Arjuna, O Arjuna, Bhavishyani, future, cha, also, Bhutani, all living entities, mam, me, tu, but, Veda, knows, na, not, Kaschana, anyone.
Anyone. Okay. So the chapter started with knowledge, right? He said, Tachrunu. If you want to get knowledge about me, you hear about me. So now he has told us in these 3 verses that we have read from chapter 3, he's talking about the rarity of being able to do devotional service to Krishna and know him, right? So what are the 3 things that we read in these 3 verses about the rarity, the concept of rarity of knowing Krishna? Today's verse, what does it say?
It's very rare to find, Mataji. Out of thousands, maybe one.
Maybe one. So in numbers, right? He's talking about the rarity from the concept, from the perspective of number, that out of so many numbers, you get only one. Okay.
One.
And then in second one, it is somebody who surrenders is also rare.
Okay. And then what aspect was he talking about? When does that surrender happen? Bahunam Janmanam. Right? Bahunam Janmanam Ante. After many, many births, that surrender will happen. So on the time scale, so there was numerically, he was saying it's rare. On the time scale, also he's saying that it's a rare thing. It's not something that will happen to you every day, right? It'll take many, many births. Bahunam Janmanante Gyanavan Mam Prapadite. Those who are the Gyanis, for them, it takes many, 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 many births till they will be lucky enough to find a devotee who will teach them how to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And then the last verse, what did we hear? About the rarity? Well, it is rare because it is a difficult thing, right? Krishna is telling him that, I know, I remember the past, present, the future, but Arjuna, you don't, because you are an embodied soul, right? So you have your own limitations and your own restrictions on how much you can know, like that. So based on what we have read so far, what do you think you would say to a jnani, right? To a jnani who says that I want to pursue the jnana, the route of jnana. What would you tell him?
You're wasting your time.
Wasting your time. And yes, right, you're wasting your time. Why? Because it'll take you many, many births, right? And it's also a very rare thing. And then even then you will not know, what will you know? Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagwaniti Shabdate. So even if you know, number one, it's difficult for you to know. And even if you know, then you will know only parts of it, right? You'll only know just the Brahman realization will happen. There is Paramatma and there is Bhagwan also out of it, but you will not know any of that, right? Okay, so that's something that this verse talks about, was about the rarity of the devotional service, right? And then let's go back again to this verse, have a quick look at that to see what else did Krishna talk about there. Okay, let's see here. It's coming up on a screen close to you. And here is the verse, and here also is the translation for the verse. All in front of you. What else is there? Talked about there.
He is the
Or
cause of all causes.
he is the cause of all the causes. Okay, right? Yeah. And what did he talk about this? What does this line mean? Here,
Hardly knows me in truth.
hardly one knows me in truth, right? So it's talking about further rarity. Further rarity is coming from the fact that you might, number one, fewer in number. Number two, takes a very long time, right? And then he's also saying, hardly anyone knows me in truth. We just know parts of Krishna. And that's why there's this very famous story, which is that, when people fight over each other as to who God is and how God looks like, there's this very famous poem that was written about the six blind men and an elephant. So we are like the six blind men who are trying to describe how God is. So somebody will just go and touch the body of the elephant and say the elephant looks like a wall. Somebody catches the tail of the elephant and he says, oh, he looks like a rope. Somebody will catch hold or touch the legs of the elephant and he says, no, come on, he looks like a tree, like that, right? So different people touches his ears and say, oh, this looks like a fan. So different people touch different aspects of the elephant and they come up with their own definition. So similarly for God also, we are blind because we are in the material world. Om Agyana Timirandasya. We are all blind, right? And so we are trying to find God, but our fate is like that of a blind person. But and then if you are blind and you're trying to go to some place, you're trying to find out, the goal is to find information about God. But then if a person who is also blind is trying to lead you to your goal, what's going to happen?
We will stay ever blind.
Both
will
of
not
them
know
will stay
Krishna.
blind. Yeah, even worse, they might both land in a ditch, right? If a blind is leaving a blind. So we have to be very careful of who we choose to lead us, right? And if we are lucky, Mahunam Janmanam Ante Gyanvan Man Prapadyate. It happens after many, many lifetimes, right? Manushyanam Sahesu Kachit Mam Veti Tatvata. Only somebody will understand them Tatvata, understand him truly. Like there's so many people who are believing in the impersonal aspect of the Lord and they think that's the absolute. But somebody who's knowledgeable has to come and explain to them that, hey, this is half-baked knowledge. There is Paramatma beyond it, and then there is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is there. And Krishna in this, Kaschit Mam Veti Tatvata, Krishna is clearly and straight away, Krishna is saying that Mam Veti, me. He's just, talking about me. He's not talking about my energy and my this and that. He says, if you want to know Tatvata, me is first thing you have to know me, which is the personality of Godhead. And he's saying that it doesn't happen to know them truly. Because if you know Krishna truly, right? If you know Krishna truly, then what is going to happen to your relationship with him? If you know him truly.
It will be a beautiful relation. Mataji.
It will be a beautiful relationship. Exactly right, right? So many times we have marital discards or discards in other kinds of relationships between friends and, boss and subordinate. And always it is like, and then finally somebody brings them together and they're, okay, talk it out. And then they talk and then everybody starts to, both the parties start to put their side of their perspective on the whole thing. And then we were like, oh, is it like that? Oh, I did not know that. Oh, this is what you were thinking. I did not know. I did not know you well enough. So when you don't know people well enough, then your relationship also will be not paripakwa, right? It'll be half-baked relationship. But when you know in him in truth, there is no other outcome that's going to come than other than falling in love with such a fantastic personality, right? Give me some qualities of Krishna that will make you like him.
Merciful.
Merciful. All right.
He's all attractive.
He's all attractive. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's funny and he is still serious at the same time. Like all the dualities you see, he's the best of those dualities in him.
Yes. Best of all the
He,
duality. Yeah.
he is
Mhm.
all knowledgeable. He is all knowledgeable.
He's all
He,
knowledgeable.
he knows everything.
Yes.
He is with us, and I mean he is with in every part of creation, but still he is not attached to it.
Yes. Yes. Very nice. So here's a verse that I'm bringing up from Bhagavad Gita chapter 2. Does it sound familiar to you?
Yes, Mataji.
Anybody wants to, who is there next in line to recite? Who read it? Sonal Mataji, did you read last?
Yeah, I read last.
Okay, so I'm going to pass and bring it back to the first of the group. So go, Sadhana Mataji, you want to try this?
Okay. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidinam ascharyavat vadati tathaive chanya kanya chanya
Chanya, yeah.
chanya ascharyavat chanyam anya shrinoti shrutvapi enam vadana chaive kaschit
Veda, 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 Nachaya
Veda
Kaschit. Okay, good. Now let's
Veda
look at the translation. Kaschit. And what does it say?
Yes, Mataji. Some look on the soul amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. Hare Krishna.
Right? So we are talking about the soul. We are just talking about the soul in this verse, and look at the very tall statement that has been made here, right? And that is that the soul is so amazing that somebody who has understood it, talks about him in an amazing manner. Somebody who has seen it describes it as an amazing soul. Some hear of him and then still don't get it. So this is just about the soul who is, just an ansha of Krishna. So you can imagine that how much difficult it is to know Krishna when we can't even know the soul, when we can't even know our tiny self, like that, right? So Ascharyavat, if we are just feeling Ascharya, right? Amazement, we are finding amazement when we see the soul. How much amazed we will be when we see Krishna, right? We have so many stories in Srimad Bhagavatam where, people see the Lord and they are completely bowled over. Can you give me an example from scriptures of a person who saw Lord and was completely changed his decision?
Dhruv
Dhruva
Maharaj.
Maharaj.
Dhruv Maharaj.
Dhruv Maharaj. There you go, right? So that's the effect that Krishna will have. Krishna will have on you. Okay, so we are going along the path of trying to get to know the absolute truth, which is Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead, and we are seeing that okay, bahunam janmanam ante. Okay, manushanam sahasreshu. Okay, it is very difficult to know. So if I were to know Krishna, so endeavors of the jnanis is not a way to go. It's not the route. I can't endeavor, and rake my brains and rake my mind and through my mental faculties know Krishna. Why? Because the instrument is a different instrument, right? I'm trying to find the transcendental using the material, and it's not possible, right? It's just the same as I'm trying to see atom with my eyes. I cannot see them, right? So we have instances of that even in this material world. What to talk about the phenomenal and the numinous there. So what does Prabhupada say? Does anybody remember what did Prabhupada say in the purport about how can we find him?
Yeah, Mataji, I like that point. He said it's very difficult to know and understand Krishna by our material blunt senses. But
Yes.
if one renders loving devotional service onto him, then he reveals himself to the devotees.
Yes, very
I was
nice.
about
And
to mention that point. I really like this.
you have to memorize that verse, right? So I'm just going to bring it up on the screen for all of you to just relish the verse, which says, Manusya, what's it say? Atha Shri Krishna Namadi Nambhaved Grahyam Indriye Sevan Mukho Hijibhadao Swayam ev spuratyada. So it is saying Atha Shri Krishna Nam Adi. So he's saying that thus Krishna's name, Nam, Adi means etc. So when I say Krishna's name and etc., what is etc.? What does etc. mean there? Krishna's name and
Krishna's
This
name, form, qualities, his pastimes, everything, activities, his
everything.
paraphernalia. Yeah.
Yes, everything except related to Krishna. With your Atha Shri Krishna Namadi na bhave grahyam indriye. You cannot find them, you cannot understand them by using your blunt senses. Through your eyes, through your nose, through your ears, you cannot understand Krishna. So how do I do that? So it says Sevan Mukhohi Jibhadao. We have to do service to Krishna. And where will I start? Sevan Mukho. Where will you start your seva? Jivha Dao. Jivha Dao. So Jivha Dao means that Jivha, what does Jivha mean? Jivha,
Tongue.
Tongue.
right?
Tongue.
Jivha, and Adao means in the beginning. Adao Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha Tha Bhajana Kriya. We say Adao means in the beginning. Right? So he's saying that in the beginning, you start the service to Krishna with your tongue. So how can you serve Krishna through your tongue?
Chanting.
Huh?
By chanting
His holy name.
Okay.
and eating
By
prasad only.
Yeah, eating prasadam. So it usually starts with eating prasadam and then the chanting of the holy name comes after that. Right? So Atha Shri Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahayam indriye sevan mukho hi jivhado swayam ev spuratyada. So this is the beautiful part of the verse. Swayam ev spuratyada. Swayam means by itself. Puratya means manifest. So it will be manifested by itself. You don't have to rake your brains. All that you have to do is to do devotional service of the Lord. And there's a very nice verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam where Narad Muni is talking to his disciple, and that is, who's his disciple?
Vyasadeva.
Vyasdeva. And so he's talking at the time when Vyasdeva has compiled all the Vedas and he's feeling melancholy. Doesn't know, I wrote so much, why I'm not getting a joy and a job satisfaction and the thrilling of having completed so many novels. And then Narad Muni comes and tells him that you haven't talked about God. And then he speaks, as part of the narrations, he speaks this particular verse, which I'm bringing up here. And it is 1:5:35 coming up on a screen near you. And whose turn is it to read it?
It's mine.
Okay, go ahead, Preeti.
Yad atra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yat tad adhinam hi bhakti yoga samnavitam.
Samanvitam.
Samnavitam.
Right. Okay, so and then the translation, Archana.
Yeah, Mataji, I'm waiting. Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or the transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. Haribol.
Right? So what is bhakti done? What is the mission of bhakti? What is the aim of bhakti?
Satisfaction of the Lord.
Satisfaction of the Lord, right? That's very important. So if you're doing bhakti, then what happens?
Knowledge comes automatically.
Yes, and what's the term that Prabhupada uses there?
Concomitant.
Concomitant, right? It will happen together with something. So Bahunam Janmanamante or Manushyanam Sarisu, Bahunam Janmanamante. You don't have to spend so much of time and efforts in trying to pursue that knowledge, because that knowledge will Swayam eva spuratyada. It'll come by itself. It's a concomitant factor. You will get it while you're doing devotional service to the Lord. As a result of doing devotional service to the Lord, you're going to do that. Krishna emphasizes that again in the Bhagavad-gita also, I think it is 18.55. I might not be absolutely accurate on that, but let me still bring it up here. Yes. Okay. 18.55. Whose turn is it to read 18.55? Sonal Mataji, is that you?
Or is it? Okay. Bhaktyamam.
Oh, we lost Sonal Mataji.
No, sorry. Bhaktya mam abhignanati yavanyaschasmi tatvata tato mam tatvato gnatva vishate tad anantaram.
Yeah, very nice. Okay, and what's the translation? Priyanka can't read, Shraddha won't read. Sadhana Mataji, back to you again.
One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God.
Wow, look at that. What's the name for kingdom of God? What do we call kingdom of God?
Golok Vrindavan.
Golok Vrindavan. Yes, that's the highest planet there. Yes. And we have Koladeep Pran Prabhu also, who joined us here together with Vadyavadu Mataji. Thank you so much for joining. And Dilip Bhai Patel Prabhu also. And Koladeep Pran Prabhu is telling us Roop, Guna, and Leela. Yes, that's a very beautiful way of saying that what is the knowledge that you gain about Krishna is the Roop and the Guna and the Leelas. You'll get all of them. Yeah. Thank you. Like that. Okay, let's read some more here. 7.25. What does it say? Purport. Who's going to read the purport?
I can read, Mataji.
Oh, you can read now? Perfect. Go ahead. I thought you were not able to read. Okay.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna and his plenary portions cannot be understood by mental speculation, nor by the non-devotees. If anyone wants to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has to take pure devotional service under the guidance of a pure devotee. Otherwise, the truth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead will always be hidden. As already stated in Bhagavad-gita 7.25, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya. He is not revealed to everyone. No one can understand God simply by erudite scholarship or mental speculation. Only one who is actually engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service can understand what Krishna is. University degrees are not helpful.
Next person.
Mataji, may I come
Yes,
after Sadhana Mataji? But
yeah, that's fine because we didn't have Garima at all, right? So she spoke there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go. Please go ahead. Yeah.
One who is fully conversant with Krishna science becomes eligible to enter into the spiritual kingdom, the abode of Krishna. Becoming Brahman does not mean that one loses his identity. Devotional service is there, and as long as devotional service exists, there must be God, the devotee, and the process of devotional service. As long as devotional service exists, there must be God, the devotee, and the process of devotional service. Such knowledge is never vanquished, even after liberation. Liberation involves getting free from the concept of material life. In spiritual life, the same distinction is there, the same individuality is there, but in pure Krishna consciousness, one should not mistakenly think that the word Vishate enters into me. Suppose the monist theory that one becomes homogeneous with the impersonal Brahman. No, Vishate means that one can enter into the abode of Supreme Lord in one's individuality to engage in his association and render service unto him. For instance, a green bird enters the green tree not to become one with the tree, but to enjoy the fruits of the tree. Impersonalists generally give the example of a river flowing into the ocean and merging. This may be a source of happiness for the impersonalist, but the personalist keeps his personal individuality like the aquatic in the ocean. We find so many living entities within the ocean. If we go deep, surface acquaintance with the ocean is not sufficient. One must have complete knowledge of the aquatics living in the ocean depths. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Preeti Radhika.
Sure. Because of his pure devotional service, a devotee can understand the transcendental qualities and the opulences of the Supreme Lord in truth. As it is stated in the 11th chapter, only by devotional service can one understand. The same is confirmed here. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotional service and enter into his kingdom.
After attainment of the Brahma Bhuta stage of freedom from material conception, devotional service begins by one's hearing about the Lord. When one hears about the Supreme Lord, automatically the Brahma Bhuta stage develops, and material contamination, greediness, and lust for sense enjoyment disappears. As lust and desires disappear from the heart of a devotee, he becomes more attached to the service of the Lord, and by such attachment, he becomes free from material contamination. In that state of life, he can understand the Supreme Lord. This is the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam. Also, after liberation, the process of bhakti or transcendental service continues. The Vedanta Sutra 4.1.12 confirms this. Prayanat tatrapi hi drishtam. This means that after liberation, the process of devotional service continues. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, real devotional liberation is defined as the reinstatement of the living entity in his own identity, his own constitutional position. The constitutional position is already explained. Every living entity is a part and parcel, fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his constitutional portion is to serve. After liberation, this service is never stopped. Actual liberation is getting free from misconceptions of life. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so you have to do devotional service to the Lord, right? And what prevents us from doing devotional service to the Lord?
False misconceptions.
Gross misconceptions is one. Okay.
Our ego, Mataji, that I am doing it. So this is always when I think whenever I do something.
Okay, a false ego. Okay.
Our anarthas, Mataji, lust.
Your lust, greed, like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and all this has got to do with Maya. And Krishna says, he'll say that in 7th chapter, Devi hi esha gunamayi mama maya duratraya ma vembaye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. So this entire Maya and this material world is sometimes equated to an ocean. And no matter how expert a swimmer you are in the swimming pool, it's a difficult thing to swim in an ocean. The waves are huge. So similarly, we are the jiva souls, and we are being tossed around in the waves of the material ocean. Sometimes in this body, sometimes in that body. Sometimes we come close to this body, sometimes we go close to that body, and so on and so forth. But it's terrible out there in the ocean, right? And Mayam etam Devi esha gunamai mama maya duratyata. So Krishna is saying it's very difficult, duratyaya. It's very difficult to overcome Maya. Mama maya duratya. But mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. But those who surrender unto me, then I will help them cross the ocean of the material world. And how is he going to help us cross this material world is said very beautifully in a verse in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And I'm bringing it up here, sharing it with you. Who's next in line to read it? Other than you are? Okay, go ahead.
samashita ye pada pallava plavam mahatpadam punya yaso murare bhavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yad vipadam natesam.
Yeah, so it's got a very nice tune. Samashite ye padapallava plavam mahat padam punya yasho murarehe bhavam budhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yat vipadam natesham. What does it mean? That's a very musical verse. What does it mean? Who's going to tell us that?
You want me to go? Do you want to go, Mataji? Do you want to?
Me? No, I already did the
Okay.
Sanskrit. Yeah.
All right. For those who have accepted the boat of the boat, oops. For those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is the famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoof print. Their goal is Parampadam, Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step.
Yeah. So do you agree with that? Or part of it? Or whole of it?
Totally.
All of it, yeah.
Mhm.
Entirely, Mataji. Completely.
All right. So what are the parts there that are being talked about? What are some of the things that were talked about in this translation? What
That
are the...
the devotee's aim is Vaikuntha, where there's no material miseries, not the place where material world where there's danger in every step.
Okay. Right. And then what are the Lord's lotus feet equated to?
Both
Param
The boat.
Okay. And what pastime of Krishna is mentioned here?
Killing of
Murad.
the
the demon Mura.
Diram called Mura, right? Okay. And then what was the water? How small does he make it?
Calf's
As
hoof
small
print.
as
Hoof of
As
a
a-
print, calf's hoof.
Right. And then how is Vaikuntha defined?
padam padam.
Parampadam.
Param padam.
Parampadam. Yes.
Param padam.
Right. Okay. And then how is Vaikuntha described in the translation?
A place where there is
Place where
no material
No
misery.
miseries.
A place where there's no material miseries, right? And a few weeks ago, we were doing a Bhakti Vriks where we were talking about the real problems of life. Do you remember what we talked about as the real problems of life?
birth, old age, disease, and death.
Yes, birth, old age, disease, and death. And why are they called problems of life?
Because if you're going to be born, then you will go through problems, and then disease and old age will surely come, and then death is to follow. So everything is a problem.
Is a problem, right? They're problems, but why do we call them as this is the problem? I mean, we have other problems also, right? Other than these four. We have all kinds of problems. Can you list some other problems other than these four?
Job, relationships,
Okay. What else? No problems at all. It's a happy batch that I have here in front of me. Happy people, no problem. Very good. What other problems do we have?
No,
Other
so
than
much
these four?
stress. Everyone
You
has
have
stress.
Stress, okay. Everyone has stress. Okay, good. What else?
Mataji, we get hungry and we have to cook.
Hungry. Yes, actually. Actually, yes. When we are in this material, when we are in this material body, in addition to death and old age, there is hunger, there is thirst, there's lamentation, there is illusion that also troubles us, right? So, but what makes something like you can be hungry, You can feel very bad if you're hungry. And sometimes people are like, I can't do Ekadashi Vrata. I cannot do Ekadashi Vrata. Why can't you do Ekadashi Vrata? Because I can't survive on just non-grains. I need food. I need food for myself. All the time they're saying this. So for them, hunger is a big thing. But for somebody else, hunger might not be a big thing. They can take a very nice Ekadashi Vrat, not drink any water, nothing happens to them. They're smiling the whole day. Nothing happens to them. So apparently, hunger is there. We do suffer from it, but hunger cannot be said to be the real problems of life. And we had talked about that there were certain aspects to something being a real problem in life. And one thing which we said was that it is common to everybody, right? So let's look at the 4 problems. Do you think it's common to everybody?
Yes.
Birth, death, old age, and disease is common.
Everyone has to go through it.
Everyone has to go through it. And the second important thing is that nobody wants it. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants it, right? And now comes the bad news that nobody can avoid it. That is what makes it a real problem. It is common to everybody. Nobody wants it. That's why it's a problem. And then nobody can avoid it, right? And then the 4th thing is the most important, is that if you solve this problem of birth, that old age and disease, then all your other problems will be automatically resolved. And that is why it is so very important for us to solve these 4 problems. And the only way to solve these 4 problems of life is through bhakti yoga. And that's why we are saying that you do devotional service to the Lord. Understand Lord. Through that, you will get knowledge of the Lord. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvataha tyakta deham punarjanma naeti mameti. So Arjuna. So he says that one who understands my divine birth and my transcendental activities, and that particular person, when he leaves his body, tyakta deham, when he leaves his body, he never comes back again. So that's where our focus should be, right? And how will we get that? We don't have to really sit down with 1 million rows of this Quran and that Quran and memorize this and memorize that. All that we have to do is to do unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. Anya bhlashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam anukulyana krishnanu shilanam bhaktir muttama. Devoid of any material desires, unmotivated. It should not have desires for gyan or any karmic activities. It should be favorable to Krishna. And it should be some activity. You should be doing something like preaching or praying or deity worship. There's so many things that you can do for Krishna. And by doing that, you will get knowledge, and thereby you'll get freed from this. And then you will vishate tad anantaram. You'll be able to go back to the kingdom of God. So that is what the main aim should be. Like that, right? Because people sometimes, we try to make fixes here in this material life. We say, okay, I'm in this country. Okay, I have problems with money. Okay, so let's go to some good country, some first class, first world country, and we'll make good money. But you come up over here, and then you realize that, oh, old age is still there. Death is still there, right? Birth is also there. People also fall sick there. So the problems are still there. What will you do? You leave this planet and go to some other planet? Death is there. Abrahma bhumana loka. Right from here, all the way from this material world, all the way up to Brahma's planet, everywhere it is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. It's a place of misery. But yet we are so foolish that we want to continue here. We want to prolong this. We don't want to go back. We feel cozy here. Maya throws 2 good things our way and we lap it up and say, oh, it's nice. I don't think it's that bad. I think I can handle it till the next wave comes and hits us like that, right? So the idea is to become very smart and, know that these waves come and go and I'm going to ride the wave and then cross the ocean like that. And of course, there is a boat there. There's a boat, Krishna's lotus feet become our boat. And you can use that under that, and the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, we can cross the ocean like that. Okay. So I will stop over here. It's a little before 7:30 here for me. Any reflections or last minute questions that you have, I'll be happy to take them. Everything is cool? Life going smoothly?
I was
Yeah,
just
I
thinking that.
like that.
Oh. I think everybody was using the mandatory waiting period, letting others speak, and then they all spoke together. Okay.
Varshana
Okay, go ahead.
Mataji, please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, Vanda will take it.
Mataji, the carry on of today is Krishna's lotus feet are the boat to cross the material ocean. That's the only way, and the only way.
And only way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So having heard that, let's not even try other methods.
Yes, better not.
Yeah. Preeti, thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that, especially since we read today Samashita, uh, I have this memorized, but it just left me. Because in Boston Temple, apparently they sing that every day there. So,
Wow.
yeah. So I was thinking like these are the verses, like even this one, and then 10, 14, 8, and 10, 14, 58.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, these are the verses like we can cling to it, especially in times of difficulty. Just by reading the purport and translation over and over again, I think devotees can sail through pretty much everything. And so with that comes this gratitude that, what would we have done if Srila Prabhupada would have not translated and written these purports? I mean, where would we have been? So then that gratitude comes.
I can tell you where I would have been. I'll tell you tomorrow. Yes, yes. And then that's a very interesting point that you brought in, that these are verses that you like. Because what Vaisheshika Prabhu also says is that, sometimes we sit down and we are chanting and we are not feeling inspired, right? It's like chanting rounds are going like that. There's no taste that is coming, no bhav is coming, like, all right, we're sleeping like that. He says that at that time you stop your chanting and then read some of the verses that inspire you, like that, right? So you could take 10, 14, 8, and this one, 10, 58. These are very inspiring verses. You can, recite these. And then you'll be charged with energy again, and then you can go back and do your verses one more time.
What I took from this is, Shraddha Mataji, that you may be a scholar and very highly educated and everything, but if you don't practice devotional service, then you will never know Krishna.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And devotional service has no bar. Age is no bar, right?
Yeah.
Prahlad Maharaj was 5. Dhruv Maharaj was 5, right? And they were exalted devotees. Yeah.
Yes, Mataji, what Sonal Mataji just said, to what that only I would like to add, like that only by loving devotional service we can know Krishna as he is, the absolute truth. So like there are so many spiritual aspirants, like Jnani Yogi and Dhyan Yogi, Karma Yogi and all. They do their sadhana, but if they don't include devotion in that, they'll only get the theoretical knowledge, which we say like gyan, which we talked about last week, right? The material knowledge, right? Something related to only matter. But if you want to get the vigyan, which is the spiritual knowledge, the pure transcendental knowledge of the Lord, then we have to pursue pure devotional loving service of the Lord. So this is what I take today from the class.
Good.
Very nice.
Yeah, and we also have to remember that we talked about jnanis who want to. Usually, you will find that people say that jnanis especially will tell you that bhakti is for the stupid. Not in so many words, but it means that, right? And jnani, you have to rake your intelligence and you have to do it, right? And this is like, it's so simple. Oh, you are stupid. That's why you're doing the easy thing. Well, if there's an easy way to approach it, then doing it the difficult way is not a demonstration of your intelligence. If there's an easy way of doing it, then you do it the easy way, right? Like that. Now, but what makes bhakti difficult then? Is bhakti, it's simple, but what makes it difficult?
Forgot.
So I had read.
Surrendering unto the Lord.
Mm-hmm. Surrendering is difficult. Yes.
And then I had read like Srila Prabhupada had said that chanting is easy, but the determination to chant is not easy.
Exactly. So it's a simple thing, but consistency is the difficult thing. Consistency. Nishtha. Consistency. That's the important thing. Yeah, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Done. But now, okay, now complete the whole mala. Done. Do it 16 times. Done. Now do it every day. Oh, like that, right? So it's the consistency, doing it over and over again, and not missing out. That is what makes it, it is simple, but it is not easy. Like that. Okay. Any other comments before we call it a day here on this call?
Mataji, Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, Preeti Mataji said the important verses 7:26, 10:14, and
She said 10:14:8. Tattenukampam susamekshamano. Janamivatna kitam vipakam.
10:48, 7,
And
And 10, 14, 58. I believe that's this one. Samashita
that's
Yupada
Samashrita.
Pallava Pallavam.
That's the Samashrita verse that you read. It's on the screen for you.
Thank you so much. Mataji.
Yeah. And the other one verse is 10:14:8. She's quoting from Srimad Bhagavatam. 10:14.
Yes, 10,
Not
14, 48.
10:14:8.
8.
10:14:8 and 10:14:58. 2 verses. Okay? You got them?
Yes, Mataji.
All right. Okay, so with that, we'll bring our this session to a close. Thank you so much for joining us on Facebook as well as joining us over here. And we will just start again. I mean, that's what we do all the time, right? We have Krishna Katha and then we start it all over again. So from now till the next session, just think of Krishna, just think of how difficult it's to get in, and don't think about Bahunam Janmanam Ante. This Janam only, we are going to go back to God. Aim high.